Hey, everybody, and welcome to another episode of your favorite late night Friday night hash cast. It is Variables with your hosts for Girly, Mr. Rosin's Neighborhood, and Superior Buds. It is episode 28 of Variables. You can find us streaming live every Friday night at 11 p.m. Eastern Time on YouTube, Twitch, and X, and after the show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and wherever you get your podcasts. Turns out Google Podcasts is closing down like they closed down everything. So if you're on there, well, time to find another location to get your podcasts, I guess. Cheers, guys. Tonight's guest, a very special one, Smokey the Bear, Michigan 2.0, as you can see, as we're all probably on some version of 2.3.25.0. Anyways, Superior, would you like to give him a formal introduction?
So Smokey's another solventless processor from here in Michigan, educator, runs some events, judging, does a little bit of everything. So looking forward to having a good solventless chat tonight.
Also known as Smokey's Solventless, I believe, on Instagram and probably wherever. Why don't you go ahead and give the plugs right off the bat, Smokey? Where can we find you?
There you go.
Yeah, Instagram, it's Smokey the Bear MI 2.0, of course, and then or Smokey's Solventless. I don't use the Smokey Solventless; it's more of a backup right now. But most of the time, it's Smokey the Bear MI. So, but yeah, we've been in the solventless game for almost 6 years now, and been loving every minute of it.
And you're a caregiver then here in Michigan, medical side?
So yeah. Yep, I started in 2008 on the medical side. We had our caregiver license, my wife and I. Her dad actually got us into it. He started a caregiving collective back in 08. He was actually one of the first 50 people to get his medical card. He went down to Hash Bash and got signed up and did it right.
Awesome.
I was going to say, 08, that's early. That's, the inception of the program here in Michigan.
Yep. So it was fun to, see the ups and downs and see which counties kind of liked it and which didn't. And of course, us being a northern area by Traverse City, it wasn't too fond of, so we still kind of played it a little low key, but we still had a little, I guess you could say it was like a little collective where we just got together and kind of taught people and showed them the way. Well, I didn't, her dad did, but we just kind of helped him with the internet stuff, kind of point him in the right direction to get going. And it did really well. We had probably 20 members at one point when we first started, and in the small community it started in, it was pretty good. He started teaching us the organic growing ways with the worm castings and doing everything right from the get-go. And I had some of his stuff when he was growing in his closet that came out some of the most spectacular weed that I've seen under a microscope, that had some like blue hairs in it, and it just, I think it was AK-47 or White Widow, because that was about the time he was growing those ones. So I'm pretty sure it was one of those two. But we smoked some of that. We were only smoked about a joint of that, and we'd be able to put it down, and we'd never put his stuff down. So it's pretty good.
That's awesome. So are you still growing today? Are you single source then?
Yeah, I'm still doing it today, single source from day one. We just, work with other people because I'm not a huge grower in any means. We have like a 10 light room and then a 4 light room. So we're not really pushing anything crazy. We do have other rooms. I've had them shut down for a couple of years because I've been, working on the solventless game so much and teaching and then taking on other contracts that it's definitely taking its toll of trying to be able to do everything. We're glorified janitors, more or less, and that changes a lot of my time. Like right now, I just cleaned the ice machine. The second time we've had issues after I clean the ice machine, and I have to take the top part off the bin, and I have to take it to our local shop because they don't service in residentials, and it's in my house, so they won't come to my house and service it. So I tear it apart and take it in. So now I'm waiting a week for my ice machine to come back to be able to do some washing. This is the second time in the last year, but it ran fine for 2.5 years.
How
So,
much does that run you? I mean, I know we talked about the expense of a lot of different equipment, and I'd like to get into that a little bit more with you about how much you've invested and what kind of equipment you're running. But I mean, just start with the ice machine. Clearly, you need that to. I mean, well, maybe you don't. I guess, right? Superior, you
Well,
might be
yeah,
running
I
a
was
little
gonna say
different.
iceless now, so
I was gonna say it's definitely there now, and there's ways to run iceless so much easier than what we were thinking back in the day. But I was
Right.
buying store-bought ice, and I was just like, I'm tired of going to the ice shops here because it's a small town where I'm at, and every time I got asked, "What are you doing with $150 worth of ice? It's snow
We're having a
outside."
party
Or
6 days a week.
I'm
Come
like,
on over. We
"Yeah."
got 30 coolers filled up. Yeah, there's
Right.
so much beer, bro.
So
Plus, that
just
store-bought ice is fucking nasty.
Yeah.
yeah, you never know what you're getting in that stuff. So I was just like, I needed to make the change. So we bought I think it's a 550-pound ice machine per day, and so it was about $5,000 in Manitoba.
Wow.
Touch screen, all that little fancy stuff, and
Yeah,
cleaning.
much bigger than my ice machine.
Yeah, it's a
I
hell of
got
a
a
lot
little
bigger than
baby
mine.
one.
Well, when we started, we were like, all right, well, let's not mess around with the ice because that's one of our main things we're gonna need. So we did the RO to the ice machine, of course, to keep the water in the ice as clean as possible, and then cleaning it once a month. Which, no restaurant we ever drink ice or ice water, ice sodas, or whatever. You know what I mean?
No.
Dude, when I got
Guaranteed,
my
it's
ice
not clean
machine,
like that.
right. When I got my ice machine, it made me think all totally different about restaurant ice.
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah.
I get no ice
I
on
let mine
everything
get gross
just for that
once,
reason.
and that's all it
Dude,
took.
and it doesn't take long, and that's what's weird.
No.
I think it would be nice to see. I'm pretty sure they have it is like a UV light to help keep some of that
Right.
buildup, because it does happen like pretty
Yeah.
quick. Because once the ice bin fills, the water sits and it goes stagnant, and that's where the issue I think goes. So
Yep. That's why I try when I have my small one. I try to just I literally set an alarm and I go out there and I empty it as soon as I can and just keep it running and keeping it running. And I think that's with the scale that, I mean, I guess I'm not a big scale either, but just with the scale that I do, staying on top of the ice and then just shutting my ice machine off and or draining it and whatnot, so it doesn't just sit there and stagnant. Is probably
Right.
one of the benefits. Another thing on that note, completely random. If you've ever torn apart any kind of a hand dryer in the bathroom, one of those air dryers, you'll think twice about ever using one of those some bitches again too.
Yeah,
Oh.
that's why they freak me out in the bathroom, like public restrooms and stuff.
Yeah,
You'll
they're just like
And
blowing
it's
bacteria
sucking the
everywhere.
air off the round and blowing it up in your face.
Yeah,
Or on your
Whenever I go
hands
in there, I
and
just wipe
Yep.
my hands on my jeans and walk
yeah,
On
I'll
my
out the
take
door.
my
shirt.
pants before I take
Yeah.
that, I think.
People look at me like I'm crazy, and I'm like, yeah, if you know, you know.
Now they have
Yeah.
the UV light ones and stuff,
Still
and I'm
doesn't
like,
make me feel better. Yeah.
no,
no,
no, I
Give me
don't
the
mine's
know.
got
paper
the
towel
UV,
back.
but
Come on.
it
Yep.
still gets nasty in there.
We're still old school out here. I still have paper towels.
I got to share a quick story about the bathroom related functionality, which I think you guys will appreciate now that we're talking about things going awry. One time I went camping a couple of years in the great state of Michigan here and went to a beautiful state park in the Thumb, and we decided we just get away for a night or two, the wife and I, and enjoy some, some semi woods and some stars and whatnot. And well, of course, we set up our tents and decide to run up to the local Dollar General or whatever, one of 3 stores that was in the town, and grab a couple accoutrements for the evening and the following day. And of course, as we're coming out of the Dollar General, we hear this large storm brewing. We're like, crap, we're like 20 minutes from the site. Let's get back there. And so we rolled back, and of course, we didn't put our rain fly on yet, and this rain had started, and so it started raining inside of our tent, and it's just one of those deals, right? So we got through. We got extra towels at the Dollar General, fortunately, because we knew we had already screwed up and cleaned up our mess, and that's where we learned to put everything in totes from there on out, not duffel bags or anything like that. And moral of the story is, well, the bathrooms at this campground had been all upgraded, and everything, including the hand dryers, the toilets, the sinks, everything was motion sensing, right? So you stick your hand under the water, the spout, and the water comes out. You wave at the paper towel dispenser and it throws about 2 inches of paper towel at you. You know, you stand up from the toilet, or maybe you just look at it funny and it starts flushing again. You know, well, because of the storm, the power went out. And
Oh,
what happens when the power goes out? You can't flush the toilets, you can't use the sinks, and you can't get any paper towels. So they very quickly had to shut down those bathrooms. And what were
nice.
you left with? Nothing. You got the woods. That was
Good,
it.
good
It was just one of
foresight.
those things where it's like, you know, maybe mechanical's not so bad, guys. Like, we don't have to put everything on electric.
Wow,
I
that's good
100%
foresight.
agree with that. I'm getting tired of all of the electric stuff. Like,
And while you guys are over there buying or creating 500 pounds of ice, I'm over here with my 5 ice trays making 12 cubes at a time because I don't need it for anything more than water. But I did go buy 250 pounds of dry ice today, which I was laughing in my head about 2 minutes ago when you guys were talking about ice, because I had a bag of leftover actual ice that I was using for a cooler to chill some drinks for my son's birthday party to have some friends over, right? And it got so cold here in Michigan that that leftover bag of ice sat on my back deck for over a week, and it just finally melted like today. I'll tell you what, dry ice would not have lasted that long. It
No.
sublimates so quickly.
I mean, as long as we're on the conversation, there are alternatives to using as much ice as some think that we need to. One of which is a bigger reservoir in your cold room. Um, Tied in hand with that would be a good refrigerant system, a good air conditioner, a good cool bot system to keep said room cold enough to keep your water at temperature. There's chillers, there's constant running chillers that you can run and keep your water cold. There's, as I know Pele has showed it quite a bit, there's secondary reservoirs that you can keep colder water in and cycle through your other bins and keep stuff colder. So I mean, there's other
You're
options
brewing
than
like
just
jockey
heating it.
box style. There's so many ways.
Yeah. So I mean, just don't think that, oh my God, I gotta fucking buy a 55 pound or a whatever ice. No, you don't. You can
no,
make whatever you have work. Just make it work as efficiently as you can.
Yeah.
100%. Like, I mean, brutes or whatever you got to do. I mean, you can get started pretty simple. I get asked all the time, and it's like, well, it depends on how detailed you want to get.
Yep,
All right, so
exactly.
let's start there, Smokey. Say I'm a caregiver and maybe I'm running like 4 lights, maybe up to 10 like you are or something, right? Let's call it maybe I'm starting or I'm not starting, but I got a 4 lighter now. I'm feeling pretty confident. I want to move on to the extraction game. I've heard all the scary stories about BHO and how it's just awful for you and everything, so I'm going to stay away from that, and I want to stick to something a little, what sounds easier. I'll tell you, it's not easier, but what sounds easier, right, or at least safer, and let's go the solventless route, right? So I've got these 4 flowering lights, and I'm expecting to pull down a handful of poundage, and maybe I want to throw, maybe I just want to keep a little bit to smoke, and I really want to get into solventless game. I got a couple pounds I want to wash. I have no equipment though, and I heard all about these, the bubble bags. And I heard about, brute containers and 5-gallon Home Depot buckets, and I've watched a couple videos from Pele and seen the Variables podcasts, and I'm just all sorts of intimidated. So if you could put out like a budget, of what someone like that should be getting into, and then maybe give us kind of just a quick rundown of how to get started into solventless, because we're not talking about blowing it up with like cool bots and air conditioners and all that
Right,
stuff.
right, right.
Maybe I
No,
just
yeah.
want to get started with a 5-gallon bucket
I,
or something. What are we
I
looking
was,
at investing in?
yeah,
Hey,
I'll
Northern
explain.
Michigan's a good start.
Yeah, I was gonna say when I started, all I did was had a 5-gallon Bubble Magic machine, and I opened up my basement in the middle of winter, and like my water was
Oh, yeah.
freezing coming out
Yeah.
of this spigot. Like I had icicles because I had my basement so cold, and I was worried about my pipes maybe freezing at one point.
Yeah.
And
My water comes out of the ground at 40 degrees, man. It's
yeah,
awesome.
same.
Damn, that's
Our
a good
well's
idea.
365 feet down where I live. I'm up on a big hill, and
I'm the
it's
same
always
way.
40 degrees cold. It's hard to water plants with 40 degrees,
Yeah,
So
dude.
I
I
always
have an
have to put it
Aquarius
in a
heater
be
in
bin.
my
out.
nutrient reservoir.
Yeah,
So
you almost
it's
need
great for washing. I mean, it helps stay really cold automatically. But yeah, I don't use RO to wash with. We're just getting into using RO more. with actual washing because I wasn't really fond of the waste of the RO.
Dude,
You know?
I'm on your same fucking page.
But also
100%.
to talk about that before I get into the buckets and everything else. Sorry. The reason is because there is a negative pH on the water from RO, I believe, and it doesn't help the stainless steel, I believe, in longevity. I believe this is what I'm talking,
Gotta
not in
use some
experience, just other people's.
barkeepers.
So,
Yeah.
I would say
but
minimally filter. Don't just use straight tap. You know, and
yeah, no,
especially
mine's
when you're,
triple filtered. Yeah,
and
yeah,
especially if you're like living in town, you know, you gotta, depending on what town and where you live and whatnot. I mean, there's chlorine, there's
yep.
there's different additives and whatnot that you have
Chloramine.
to, make sure that you're
Fluoride.
filtering
So you
out
got
and whatnot. Depending
you
on
got to make
location.
sure that. So I mean, really, filtration is going to be your number one thing you're going to want to spend money on probably if you don't have clean water, or you're going to have to aerate the water like you were saying about the chlorine in it for 24 hours or more. And then you can basically buy a brute, or you can do the 5-gallon wash Bubble Magic wash machines, or a 20-gallon. The 20-gallon I think is like 300 and something. The 5-gallon 100 and something. In a minute. And then a brute trash can's like $40 to $60. So depending on whatever size you want, 20-gallon and all the way up to 44-gallon. And then you'll need a paddle, of course, if you're going to do it by hand. And then your next thing is going to be your collection wash bag.
Real quick on the paddle, because I know there's, I mean, that's totally like an accessory, right? But like you can accessorize this, and there's anything from, you know, a kayak paddle, which I totally have a couple of that I could, you know, use, to, oh, I don't know, a giant wooden spoon, to these pretty nifty, you know, stainless steel paddles with holes in them, and like, you know, like, I know we're talking budget and getting started, but do you have, maybe that's something I kind of want to look into a little bit more and invest in right off the bat, because I can't imagine those. I mean, maybe the price range does vary quite a bit, but what would you recommend there?
I think the stainless steel paddle is like $80 from Polar. I can't remember exactly. I ordered it a couple of years ago. And then, so like a kayak paddle is like pretty cheap, $20 probably. But I've got stand-up paddleboard or paddles, so they're a little more adjustable, and we can mess with it. But ultimately, you're looking at what, another 20 to $100, depending on what you want there. And again, it's just the filtration of water. Ice is going to be your most expensive thing besides the wash bag. And of course, I use Rosin Revolution bags, of course. They just have always taken care of us from day one, so I can't complain about that.
I think we're all using them, aren't we?
Yeah,
That's-
I've been
Yeah.
using them.
You know,
Rosin
and
Revolution since
Oh,
the
I almost
beginning.
nope, I didn't.
Yeah.
I went Smokey tonight.
Oh, nice. I
Nah.
was trying to look through my closet for stuff that I have from people, but I honestly don't know that Smokey and I have ever met either in face to face or voice to voice before. So
No, Pedro, we've chatted quite a bit, but we've never met. No. And I almost wore that shirt tonight too, so that's funny.
I almost did too. I got. I was debating on that one or the new graffiti one.
Well, I'm glad we're all putting our minds together, and it is sometimes a small world, because just in fact, not even a week ago, this past Saturday, I was vending an event, the Third Eye Craft Fair, and I met a new individual I had never met before, and he introduced himself, and he brought up Smokey. You know, we was just at the event as a customer, and he brought up Smokey, and I'm like, oh yeah, I know him. I'm having him on the podcast this weekend. And he's like, what? I'm like, yeah, like we do a podcast called Variable. He's just like, oh, cool, I'll have to check it out. And he keeps talking, and then he brings up, he's like, yes, I don't know what, I forgot what he said, but I'm sorry, I'm not shouting him out. Maybe you can help me out, Smokey, in a second here. But he starts telling me about, or he brought up Pelly Polaire. I'm like, oh yeah, we had him on the podcast too. He's looking at me like, you're full of shit. You know what I mean? Like, I'm like, no, dude, like for real. Like I pulled up the YouTube, scroll back, episode 16 or whatever, and I'm like, no, it's right there. You know what I mean? And like, you'll see, just subscribe. You'll see Smokey this weekend. He goes, dude, I'm the guy that filmed Smokey's education class, and he's like, I also filmed Pelly's, and so I thought that was really cool. A super small world situation that happened within the last week. Someone that knows you, like just met me, knows Pele is this weird kind of small world situation. So, real quick, can you give him a shout out? Tell me.
Yeah, shout out to Julian. I don't remember his full Instagram, but Julian Productions. He did our filming for our hash class, and he's done quite a few other events. We met at High Times. He used to work for Zilla's a lot back in the day.
That's right. He was wearing a Zilla shirt.
Yeah, and we used to hang out and mess with Zilla's all the time because we'd put like a Smokey sticker on the back butt cheek of the Zilla's costume guy walking around, you know, and just have some fun while we were there. So, and we actually became pretty good friends and stuff. So
nice. I wanted to make sure I brought him up and shouted him out because it was just it was kind of cool to meet him and just it's like wild, a little foresight there. But all right, so back to the hash making, man. Why solventless?
I mean, we did the open blasting days. Don't get me wrong, like, but you know, I never felt safe. We just sat in the garage doorway, blasting out the doorway and stuff, and
trying to hide from the neighbors.
Luckily, we live up north and we have some property and stuff.
Okay.
We were spoiled with that. But yeah, we're always, you know, you
can smell that stuff. You should just hid in the woods.
Oh yeah, no, we were just trying to not make sure anything falls into our stuff. You know, we're just like, oh, let it clean. But no, we did the blasting for about a year or more, and my wife and I were actually dabbing it on the old titaniums, red hot.
Oh,
you know, you didn't have a temp or anything, just bang, run it.
It works.
But then my friend came over one day and he's like, dude, you got to bust out your girl's straightener and check out this shit. This is new tech, straightener tech or whatever. And I'm like, whatever. I'm like, all right, let's just not break this thing to kill me.
So it was a word of mouth thing, huh? Like your friend told you about it? It's not like you like read about it or heard about it online or something like that?
Nope. I didn't know what rosin was even almost until I started Smokey solventless, to be honest. Like, I don't get me wrong, I knew what it was, but I didn't even know how to make it before I even got into it. So like, I knew how to make hash because I made bubble hash in 2010, you know, in the caregiving days, because we were selling hash back in the day for $20 a gram back in the day. So, and that was good. And now I look at it like, because we were watching Blue Dream back then for hash, so it's like not a producer in hash at all. So he's like a 2%er, if that. So like everything we did get was not really good, and we're like, all right, well, we didn't keep doing it that long. But the BHO, we stayed on that for about a year and a half. We weren't able to get good pricing out of it. We got a decarbing oven and all that stuff, and we got it down pretty good. But I never got into like more scientific parts of it. It was just like, all right, it's decarbed enough. Let's dab it and let's sell it and do whatever. And we used to sell them in those little silicone pucks. And yeah, we used to sling that stuff for a while for $25 a gram or whatever back in the day. And then I don't know, just I don't know whatever happened. I think we just got into the solventless because it was just cleaner, I guess, for us health wise.
Especially from the open blast days, I understand that. No, I gotta ask you. Since you brought it up, can you define what the term hash means to you?
That's the general term for basically anything with resin. It can be BHO, it can be anything. So hash is hash. It's one of the main things we strive for this plant to get the highest potency. You know what I mean?
So you call it pretty much the extracted resin from the cannabis plant, if you will.
Yeah.
Kind of pretty, pretty much the. I mean that Oxford Dictionary definition. I think that's pretty much spot on. Yeah,
that is for the dictionary. Yeah, that's spot on.
Yeah. Now, on Frenchie's page today, I don't know if you saw this on my Instagram. I guess I could just pull this up. They I wouldn't necessarily call it a controversial comment, but it was something I thought was, I don't know if I agreed with it. I'll go ahead and let you guys decide whether or not you agree with it.
I definitely got an opinion on this. It's funny.
It says, one thing I have to say first is that we do not extract, we sieve. If you think that this is a process of extraction, then you are not aware of the fact that you are actually sieving, says Frenchie Cannoli. Definition of sieve: an instrument with a meshed or perforated bottom used for separating coarse from fine parts of loose matter. Now, you can't really disagree with necessarily a definition. You can
Agreed.
disagree with an opinion, and I disagree respectfully with this opinion. I think it is certainly a form of extraction, and maybe just a mechanical form of extraction. I saw some comments about relating it to apples and how apples can fall from a tree and you don't extract the apples, you extract apple juice or something along those lines. Comparing trichomes to apples. Now, I don't know if I agree with that either, but what
can
are you guys'
compare
thoughts
to.
on this?
I mean,
I'll let Smokey go first there.
yeah, I grew up watching Smokey Jesus, Frenchy cannoli videos when I first started doing the hash in the 5-gallon washer. Just using his tech of the sandwich with a little bit of ice here, their product, and then a little bit of ice. I went with that tech for a long time. I still use that tech a little bit. But I mean, I can see what he's saying because, like you said, when you read the definition of sieving, it's definitely we're straining it more or less through the sieve of a bag, or if you're doing even or dried, you're going to sieve it still. As far as DHO, I believe you're still pushing it through a screen, right?
Yeah,
So
typically some sort of mesh screen or maybe a paper filter or something like that. Yeah, that's more or less to hold back.
Yeah, that's more of a filter than a sieve.
Yeah,
right.
yeah, because
That's what I
it's a
thought.
liquid
Opposite
solution at that
direction of
point.
what you're collecting from.
Yeah,
Smart.
and I didn't make this comment, but I had the thought when Madam Cannoli responded to my comment and said,
I didn't see the correct comment thread. I should check that out. Or maybe I should stay away from it, but
maybe I should just pull up. Hold on. My apologies for the delay.
ooh la la.
I think it could be both an extraction and a sieving process.
Yeah, I
So-
believe.
Yeah, I think
Right?
so.
I think it falls into
Because-
both definitions.
Well, technically, we're sieving the hash, but then we're going to be extracting the rosin.
Right.
Agreed.
So
Yeah.
So
agree
I
with
I
that.
think that both sides have they have a valid point. Me personally, I don't think that we're extracting the trichomes from the plant. I
No,
just don't think that that's an appropriate term. I think
no, we're
that
making them fall off.
I think that we're separating, or I guess I don't know exactly what word to use, but I don't feel
extracting, dude. It's extracting. I'll fill it in for you.
Well, I mean,
All right,
yeah, you
the
can
definition was by
voice your
force.
opinion, but
I'm just voicing
think-
definitions.
I
Let's
think,
get to it. All
what's
right,
the
so
definition?
Big Phone says it's semantics. I kind of had to agree. Let's
Well,
read.
we're talking semantics. Of course we are. We're all
It's just
talking.
absolutely it's
Well,
apples to
but
oranges.
She disagrees. She says, actually, no, check a dictionary, 2 different definitions for 2 different processes. All right, well, yes, there's 2 different processes. I get it. There's more than 2, but it's semantics. You're extracting the trichomes from the plants via sieving. Semantics, Bake says. French used to always ask you to show him the extraction of the intact trichome head from the plant. There is an abscission point at the base of the trichome where it connects to the stalk. It narrows with maturity, similar to a fruit or leaf of some trees falling naturally when ripe. We don't refer to that process as extracting fruit from a tree, nor do we refer to the process of separating grain from the shaft as an extraction process. We have a wealth of terms to describe different processes so we can perfectly understand each other, and that's a good thing. Extraction processes in the cannabis industry are used to create tinctures and rosin, but not hashish, and that's not semantics. It's a fact. Semantics, definition. The branch of linguistics and logic concerned with meaning, which I don't know why we needed to define semantics, but let's keep going.
So far, I think I have to say I agree.
With which part?
With what you've just read, that there's a definite, unless I'm just being stoned and not
Yeah.
When we've all agreed that hashish is the traditional point, the separation of the trichomes, and I just said it right there because to me that's what it is. I agree with the separation, but the minute we start breaking the trichomes open, and I know Now is smashing them and keeping them all together and not separating things. Now is that an extraction as well?
Okay,
To me,
so
we're separating the trichomes from the plant material, and then, like Smokey said, when we go to rosin, then we're extracting the rosin from the heads.
Going one little bit further though, like going back to the apple tree, this isn't just apples falling from a tree. It's more like the machine that goes up and hooks to a nut tree and shakes the shit out
Right.
of it.
and that's
You
my
know.
thing. It's like we're not
What is
picking
that thing
trichomes
called?
up off the
Right.
ground, guys. We're not sweeping trichomes off and collecting them off the ground. We're extracting them from the plant, and because we're using the definition of extraction, yes, we are. And let's get there.
No. I completely disagree, because we'll always take apples. You always see them in a store where they're separated by size. We did not extract them from the trees, then separate them by size. Did not happen.
Okay, but separating them by size is a
Mechanically
totally different
separation.
process. Yeah,
Yes,
that's
agreed. Mechanical separation.
But that's post extraction. We're not extracting the apples by separating them. We're extracting them from the tree. And let's get to that definition, because I'll show you why. Let's just skip past this comment. Let's get down to it. Or actually, this is about the tree. So, but by process of seeing, it is no longer natural. You have processed that biomass before it is an extraction. It is not the same as apples falling from a tree onto the ground. It's more like humans extracting those apples from the tree for their use. And I kind of agree there. The resin is on the outside of the plant. Okay, so it's totally like apples falling from the tree onto the ground, Madam Cannoli says. Take a dried branch of fully mature cannabis and shake it. The trichome heads will fall off just like fruit. So will dead leaves. There's an abscission point at the base of the head where it joins the stalk that narrows as the plant matures. It's made to fall with maturity, just like fruit. I agree, but to collect them is to extract them. And that's, I think, the difference. And so that's where I came in. I said,
So
if
we're
we are using the
extracting apples
definitions,
the minute we pick them up off the ground.
if we're collecting them, yes. Remove or take out.
That is
Especially-
absolute asinine. That is
Well, there's your definition of extract right there from the Oxford Dictionary, buddy. Extract, verb, remove or take out, especially by effort or force. Not only by effort or force, but to remove or take out. We are extracting the apples. Even from the area, we are
I think
extracting
you're
the
definitely
apples.
standing alone on this one.
That's fine. I'll stand with the dictionary. That is fine.
You are definitely standing alone.
So she comes back and says, perfect. There's no effort or force in dry sieving. I disagree. Clearly, there is effort or force.
I would agree that there's effort force there. Yes.
Whereas there's absolutely is when you use a press to force the resin, which I wasn't arguing about press at all, but from the trichome when making rosin. So she's talking about extracting the oil from a trichome head. I agree.
Yes.
That's also
Yes.
extracting.
Yes.
But we're extracting the trichomes from the plant. You can't disagree with that. It's just simple.
I can just, and I will, and I am, and most people are as well.
I actually don't think they are, because if you just read the definition,
I mean,
so
look at
again,
Chad.
this is where I agree with her, though.
Collection.
She says two different processes for
There's
two different
another one.
products should obviously have different terms to describe. And I
There's
agree.
another one.
That's where I think semantics are important.
Shucking
Yeah.
heads off.
But-
And then I just talked my ass off over here for a second.
So-
Alright.
There's the correct way
There's-
to
I
wash
mean, I
an
don't
apple,
see.
and then there's the more aggressive wrong way. One of them is I can see is much more of a force induced extraction. We're not trying to do force. We're just kind of swishing it around. That's the goal, is to not. But no, well,
Switching it around is an
I know,
effort
it
or
is a
force.
force. It is a force. That's what I'm agreeing with you here. Hold on, you're cutting me off.
I know. Very
Listen.
excited.
I agree. Both of them are extractions, but I also agree with her with it is a sieving process. That's
For sure.
they're
but I think
two
a sieving
separate
process
things,
is
though,
a
and
type
trying
of
to say that
extraction.
they're mutually exclusive. I think that's where she's in the wrong there, because they're not. They're not. They can be both.
And speaking of that, mutually exclusive, I had to go back because we talked about this, I think, only a couple weeks ago, and look at their defined terms for this. And it is concentrates. It's not extracts, because we talked about remember we went through all of these different methods. I'm like, if
What
they
was that
call
again?
these extracts, I'm just done. I'm unfollowing.
I guess I'm gonna have to change Smokey's solventless extract off there. I mean, we kind of already did, but
Smokey's solventless collection separations. We'll find different words.
Does Smoky Solventless specialize in hash though, or rosin?
Well,
Rosin's not hash.
yeah.
No,
So
rosin is hash.
it's hash rosin.
But there's a difference between separation and extraction. So
So it seems like Michigan and the heads are more into the rosin right now, but there is, we do have our hash heads. Don't get me wrong.
yeah,
And I still try to run some full melt here and there. We actually have some Death Star 90U right now, getting ready to start up.
9120.
Yep.
Of course. Nice.
And first wash, of course, it's very nice.
That's a good topic.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on in the Michigan market, so it's going to be fun to see because of all the states coming on along the coast of us that we are attached to. So the only state that's not is Indiana, but that state's, no one messes around there. So, but yeah, the market's been, a little flippy floppy lately. I feel everybody's been wanting those $700 ounces, And it's like, man, where are these $700 ounces? Maybe do some greenhouse for that, But
there's a lot of outdoors still out there. Trust me.
Yeah, I know that.
Let's go over some
I
of
get
those
asked all the
variables
time.
Let's go over some of those variables because that was a lot of my questions here. I wanted to walk down a solventless path with you here and walk down some variables. And you mentioned the first pull. You think first pull is better than the second pull, better than third pull, better than fourth? Do you think it runs down that way, or what do you believe?
No, I've seen second and third come out better than first. The reason being is if you have any dust or debris or anything in your plant, on your plants or any in your room, it's going to come out in first wash. So we've done different washes. We've done like a 1 minute wash, dumped out just to see, and definitely can see the difference in the second wash being way better. So we've been kind of playing around with doing a first and second wash. We're actually talking about changing up tiers right now. We actually just did. We're getting rid of our tier 3 and going to only a 2-tier system right now and trying that and see what happens.
It gets tough when you freaking start working with tiers and
we've done it for about a year now, and it's been not horrible, but we just wanted to offer that little lower price because the economy is where it's at, and
understandable.
The hardworking people still deserve good meds, and it's still great meds. I mean, I still dab my last wash for crying out loud. So
for sure.
So 45U.
I was going to say I got one right here, 4572. I'm thinking about busting this out, putting in my Percy because it's just great.
Yeah,
dude, I honestly like
what Pedro considers edible rosin. For most people is like super high quality.
Same. Like I all the time. I mean, even our last wash, like I said, we dab it all the time. Even JMP Glass Arts that I wash for. He's like, all right, I'll take all my last wash back. I'll take all my last wash back, and I'll just dab on that and sell the rest. And then last time he ran out of he was running out of stuff, and he's like, I'm getting tired of this last wash shit. I'm taking first wash this next time. So he's like taking ounces of first wash, and I'm like, how about you take second tier? Like, it's just as good. He's like, yeah, true. Let me take that because it's something that we created. I was always wanted to be transparent when I started Smokies, so that's where we always were first pull or whatever the micron. We always labeled everything from the get-go. We always tried to tell people, this is why we label. We want you to understand what these things kind of are. But it still kind of gets lost. Yeah. It still kind of gets lost because I feel like the BHO guys are in the rosin nowadays because the prices are down. You know what I mean? The BHO resin heads are now getting into rosin because it's not as expensive. So they're starting to dab rosin more too. You know what I mean? Because I've seen a lot more. I mean, what are you seeing?
BHO is all but dead, bro. Like,
yeah.
I had someone DM me. This might be a little inside baseball, but I had someone DM me asking like all my prices and stuff for Hash Bash Cup, and he goes, He goes, because obviously it's just going to be you and I with quality BHO. And I'm like, oh, I was like, I hope that's not just down to two guys at this point. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that would
Like, that's not
Pretty
good.
wild here right now. I mean,
It's
they
And we're talking
blown
quality.
up.
There's plenty of bad BHO still out there. Let's be
Oh,
honest.
Oh yeah.
for
Oh.
sure, 100%. And I definitely would not have been one of those
But
guys open blasting.
I gotta ask on the wash side of things, because I'm so inexperienced on that. My understanding would be that you'd want to do more washes to get more material, right? It's just more about the efficiency of the overall process. I never really considered the fact that you might literally be cleaning the material in this first wash. So I could see the benefit of doing a very quick, quote unquote, first wash. Is that really all the reason there is for a second, third, or more, maybe more washes to just kind of get the rest of the material off?
Yeah, so usually first wash is like a 5 to 10 minute wash, and then you can go up from there, or you can stay at 10-minute washes by hand, which we normally do. If we did washes by hand anymore, we don't. We use it off right now. But yeah, like 5 or 10 minutes is usually your first wash, and then each strain is different on how far they will push, if they're going to go green or brown or whatever. So it all depends on the strain. Like our Death Star, it drops a lot of hash. I feel like it's got that loose neck trait, which a couple of our strains do have, and they're all pretty high yielding, 5%ers plus.
Would you
We
say
were
it's
very
beneficial to scope your shit just to know where you're at with all these washes?
Yeah, I mean, we definitely did when we first started, and now we've been in it for almost 6 years, and we've had the same 5 strains that we've been growing almost
Yeah, once you get
for
going,
hash. So it's like we just 8 weeks. It's cut down at 8 weeks.
but like
We try not
for
to grow
that
anything
person
wrong.
getting started though, wash it for a minute, scope it, wash it for 5 minutes, scope it, wash it for
Yep.
10 minutes, find out what you're dealing
So
with.
when I first started, I was using the 5 gallon washer, and I was doing like 30 seconds just to see. I wanted to see how much it would dump at 30 seconds, a minute dump. Because I was doing small batches. I was like, all right, I got 2,000 or 1,000 grams of this, 1,000 grams of the same strain. Let's do a little testing. So that's where I dialed in how far I could push certain strains at some time. So it's a fun one. Every hunting and washing is the hardest and fun part at the same
Yeah,
time.
I was gonna say that's the fun in it for me. I'm 100% from seed. It's always different. I scope everything because I just want to see,
Yeah.
like, how did it look before, and how good did I wash it? Because when I first started scoping, I'm like, oh shit, that last wash, I need to beat it a little harder. It was definitely not moving
We're
enough effort,
debating
right?
on getting a microscope. We want to start messing around with microscope a little bit more. I think it'd be fun
For
because
sure.
nowadays you can hook them up to USB pretty
Yep.
easy and
Yeah.
look on a TV instead of trying to.
Yeah, the
So
wife
we
got me a
might look that route.
Next
nice
one I got
microscope
for
for
you.
Christmas, and then I got her the macro lens for her camera. So just playing around, get as close as you can. The more you see,
Yeah.
the more you'll understand what you're doing.
Absolutely.
Next one I got for you is: do you think there's a difference between processing indoor and outdoor? And if so, what are they?
Yeah.
So that there's so many variables with that because every region has their own benefits and negatives to their region. So like us being in Great Lakes State, we're surrounded by water. I'm 10 minutes from the Great Lakes, so like we get a lot of humidity in the end of the year, a lot of rain. So if you're not covering, you're going to deal with a lot of that botulite. I can never say it properly. The bud rot basically, and PM coming in at the last few weeks, and that's I've washed quite a few greenhouses or outdoor, and I here in Michigan, of course, I haven't washed anything in Cali or anywhere else. That I always feel like there's a little humid taste. The last 2 years, though, we've had a better ending of the year for the harvesting. So like last year was probably our best year yet for harvesting. I don't even think we got the fog, but the 2 years prior to that, we had a fog that came in and sat for 2 weeks almost. I swear it was just a humid fog the whole time where I
You're
live.
right in that belt too that comes right off the big lake there, man.
Yeah.
I think
So
you get it worse than we do, and we're right on the water.
yeah, it's silly because we're snow belt, and it's funny because all my friends, we're living up on one of the highest peaks in our county, and the people that drive up to our house, they're like, "Dude, what the hell? It wasn't snowing at the bottom of the hill." I'm like, "I know. Why do you think we have to have 4-wheel drive? It's not. We're not on the mountains in anything, but we just
that
have
is
a
about what it's
bigger
like here, though.
rolling hill."
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's fun. We have to have 4-wheel drive or good winter tires basically to get by because our road's one of the last roads to get plowed, and it's a steep hill, and it's like a 90-degree stop sign turn to go up the steep little hill. So there's no runway unless you like run the stop sign from straight across,
Just kind of got to gun it
which I
and
used to do
clench your butt.
when I was younger.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, but it was more at night usually. Coming home late at night, and it's like foot of snow or 2 feet of snow, and the road plows ain't hitting it. It's like, oh, I
Yep.
gotta gas this shit.
Oh,
I had an
man.
old little
Driving-
car, Acura Integra.
There's been plenty of times coming back from the local hangout spot playing pool. I mean, we're tiny town and uncleaned roads, foot of snow, just hoping you don't drive off because it's rocks and water, and you're just bloop.
It's
Oh, nice.
beautiful.
Dripping like water. I was waiting to see if it was dripping like water.
Yeah. Speaking of that, so we used to come home because I used to work at a pizza place and all that, and general manage the place. And long story short, we'd get home at like midnight and stuff, and there'd be no one on the streets where we live up here because it's like more of a summer town thing. We have ski resorts and snowmobiling, and there was a small town called Frankfurt, and I was living over there, and there was so much snow on the roads. My buddy had an S10, snow tires, 4-wheel drive. We hooked up a ski rope. We were snowboarding through downtowns and like hitting the snowbanks at like 1 or 2 in the morning, just having a blast,
Yeah.
We did
So
that
you
once
can't do
in
that
college. It's
this
so
much
fun.
anymore.
No,
We don't get that snow anymore. I feel it's weird.
It was a weird year for sure. I mean, we rely on snowmobiling up here during the winter, and there was just nothing. Of course, now we've gotten a foot and something the past week. Now it's gone again.
Jeez.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's like every time we see snow, it's like, oh, the sun comes again and melts it, and then it's gone for a day, and then it snows again and snow. I feel like we got more snow in March almost.
Yeah,
Right.
for real. One of the cool things, maybe I'll call it a challenging thing about Michigan, and one of the things I've heard from a lot of different manufacturer vendors is, Michigan has one of the most challenging growing environments, and not only outdoor but indoor as well, just because of the swings. What you guys are telling me right now with how much snow is coming and melting, and in my own experience in this time of year, that is a recipe for powdery mildew. How are you guys dealing with that?
Real quick, the funny thing is I think we here in Colorado potentially we have great swings. I don't know if there's as much as they are there as well, but I think the substantial difference is our lack of humidity.
Yeah,
So
you're dry.
So adding that, continue.
Oh yeah, no, that's the big difference is like I think when you're farther inside from the state, there's better. Why can't I think of it? Growing terrains or whatever territories.
Terroirs.
Environments?
Terroirs. There we go. Terroirs. There's better terroirs to grow inside the state more because it's not going to have the humidity from the Great Lakes. You know what I mean? So there's that. It definitely controls it. But like we did a light depth last year, first time trying to mess around. We just bought a cheap thing on Amazon and pulled tarps midsummer, and got a small crop. I wasn't pushing for anything crazy. I just wanted to see what these strains could do, and if I could do light depth in Michigan. I knew we could, obviously, but we ended up taking one of the plants, actually 2 plants, and mixing it and entering the sun grown competition by Geo Country Fruit, Geo Farm, and we won People's Choice with that. So we're happy to see that. Because I'm not big on outdoor compared to indoor. I'm a big indoor guy. Flower smoker. I would never smoke it outdoor, especially Michigan outdoor. That's not saying greenhouse. That's straight outdoor. I don't know. I've always preached that the stuff outside is just, you got bird shit, you got bugs, you got dust, the wind blowing whatever shit's in
Bird
it,
shit
you
and
know.
spider dicks.
Pollen from your
Yeah.
neighbors.
The pollen, PM
Do you-
from your neighbor's gardens or
do you
whatever, jet
consider-
fuel,
Do you
whatever.
consider like a greenhouse or a sun dome or anything like that? You consider that outdoor as well?
No, I do not consider that. I actually, like, if you follow Helio Hash, they grow under just like the hoops and in Maine, and they're crushing it. I mean, they won multiple awards. I think they won the Eagle Clash and stuff. So a few years back. So you can't deny that there's outdoor out there that's really good. I'm not saying there isn't, definitely.
So
I'm just saying where I live, it's not the greatest.
So what is growing in a greenhouse if that's not outdoor?
It is. It's just, covered.
Greenhouse grown.
Yeah, it's just
I mean,
greenhouse. We label it greenhouse just because
So
there
there's-
is a little bit of a difference.
So there's
'Cause if
outdoor
you-
sun grown, there's greenhouse sun grown, and then indoor, and then all
Correct.
the fucking variables that come branch off of that.
So the reason why is because, like, I used to have an outdoor grow. Don't get me wrong. I've grown outdoor.
outdoor. I mean, now we got to
Outdoor. And then I started putting a plastic over it. And once I did that, I'm seeing how much black shit is on top of that tarp at the end of the year. It's like, man, that just saved all my plants. We actually talked your dad into covering his plants in the last 2 years, and he's like, dude, this is the best stuff I've ever had in years.
Yeah,
I'm like,
when you
yeah,
start-
thank
You start
God.
filtering your intake and everything,
And
oh
that
my
changes
God,
everything too.
dude.
Absolutely. And that's
Now
what I was just going
Now
to
it's
step to too.
outdoor, sun grown, but fucking clean. You know,
Right.
Yeah.
Right. If
It's
you
the
can
best of
filter
both
that air,
worlds,
it's just
man.
going to be, it's going to be the best.
How
So-
can you deny that, like, having some level of control more so than outdoor, but utilizing the elements of outdoors is not going to be somehow
You-
better. It's just
I'll say it. You can't beat the sun.
right.
I mean, you really can't. I've
full
grown some of the best
spectrum,
terps from the sun, and
100%.
the full medicine is best from the sun.
Yeah, I would agree.
You
I
might
would
not be
agree.
getting the full quote unquote indoor potential out of these genetics, right? When you're growing them outdoors, it's just a different type of growing.
Yeah.
It doesn't
It
mean you're
is.
not getting its full potential. You know what I
Right.
mean? It's just a different
Different
type of-
stressors.
Let me walk down the next road as far as growing. Then let's go to processing. Fresh frozen, half dry, full cured. When going to, we'll just say in our case, going to solventless.
When I first started, I was actually 7-day cured, and then freeze. And we believed that because we were smokers. So we were like, oh, I just couldn't just freeze this weed and not be able to use it. And it doesn't wash. So now I'll be able to use it at least. If it's dry, I can pull it out of the freezer and still smoke that son of a bitch when I run out, So we were doing that forever, like for the first year probably. But it just became a pain in the ass to hang it and then take it off the line and then trim it up again and then freeze it. And it's like, man, we could just
scale
freeze
makes
it.
a huge
10
difference.
times faster.
Yeah, the scale. Like if you're talking small scale, completely fine. You start
Yeah.
talking about rooms or greenhouses, it's like, oh,
Right.
Well, we were doing consecutive grows then. We were just pulling, 5 plants, 6 plants out at a time, and we were just washing and working with those plants. But now we're doing full rooms when we harvest. It's like, oh shit, yeah, no, we can't. we gotta
different beast.
we can hang this stuff now. We just hang our tops
Yeah.
because we still smoke. We do donut doobies. My wife and I. She's more of a smoker, and then we still do donut doobies like every day.
Donuts are
every joint is a
fantastic.
donut doobie.
Oh my god.
So
Such a
essentially, you do fresh frozen because of scale.
Yes,
now,
we do
I'm
fresh
assuming.
frozen now. Yes, absolutely.
Is there a difference and or preference if you had between fresh frozen, half dry, cured?
I haven't done a side by side in a while. I'd like to do one again at some point. My biggest problem is I don't have a perfect curing room, especially right now with winter. It's like super dry in my basement. So
For sure.
even if I put a humidifier in there, it doesn't touch it really.
Yeah, I understand that.
How quickly
Only
are
time
you
it-
flipping that room?
Flipping the flowering room.
You said you're harvesting all, I call it perpetual growing, right? Where you're perpetual harvesting, maybe where you're talking like your 4 or 5, 6 plants at a
Yeah,
time,
we were taking
versus mono harvesting, if you will, where you're taking a whole room at
Right.
a time. How quickly are you putting plants back into that room for flower?
now we're flipping and we're trying to reset, but we've got about a 2-week veg still when we put
Okay,
them
so
back in
but you
that
got
room.
plants in there vegging then immediately,
Yeah,
pretty
usually.
much.
Yeah, right away. As soon as
Okay,
we can.
okay. Because I was gonna say sometimes people don't realize, like, if you're not resetting your room immediately, you have all the tools, the equipment, the infrastructure in there to just use that as a drying room and a curing room. You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
especially if you're
Yep.
doing that
We
half dry, like Pedro's, suggesting it, you might just want to do it right in that room if you're doing a monocrop or a mono harvest, if
Right.
you will.
Yeah, we've got a lot of friends that do it that way. I just never been a fan of that, just because I want to be able to keep growing and pushing more if I can.
Right.
Um,
It's hard,
so
man.
we've used
Plant count.
we
It's very
we used an
hard.
apartment. We had an apartment bathroom that I just remodeled a couple years back, and we were using that for a while. But then we had guests over all the time. We just had fucking weeds spraying up, and we're like, "Sorry, you can't use that bathroom. It's a brand new bathroom, but you can't use it." Now we put it in a different room in our basement. It's still not what I'd like. Um, so we're working on it. I got a tent. We might try out this next time.
I was gonna say a
But,
tent's always a good option, man.
Yeah.
I'm sitting here with an 8x8 gorilla tent that is completely empty right now, other than the infrastructure to grow in it, right? Because I just wasn't growing in it the last couple months. Well, I've got a bunch of plants that I harvested for Hash Bash Cup that need to be, dried and cured. It's like, well, I guess that's the perfect spot,
Yep.
like let's just utilize it.
That's how I flip my room. I've got my
Mhm.
5x5 veg, then I've got the flower room. And when I'm harvesting the flower room, I'm taking the veg tent plants and putting them into flower. And then I'm drying and curing for the half dry, buck into bags into the freezer, and then start new plants. By the time they're ready, flip them again.
yeah,
I know, sorry, Pedro. I know
No,
we're getting into the processing now, but before we get too far away from it, I always like sharing this elevation map with our other Michigan growers here. It's always interesting, especially, being in the Traverse City area, just seeing the different elevation you might deal with. We don't have a whole lot down here in the southern half of the Lower Peninsula, but it gets pretty aggressive, especially up here, but obviously in the northern Lower Peninsula as well. And that, I mean, changes weather, changes how you're growing, changes a lot of things.
We get we get the super low temps, we get the hot summers, we get 0% humidity, and we get 100% humidity. So your
Mhm.
grow environment's got to handle every freaking thing.
Yeah.
We get
That's the
snow and 70-degree temps in the same exact day, guys. Like,
Yeah.
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 Michigan is
That's
a
probably
challenge.
one of the hardest things that I have to deal with is just environmental controls because I don't have everything, just touch tone, awesome shit running. I'm still doing what I can with everything I had. So I haven't really upgraded everything. I really want to build out a room or a garage at some point, like a full barn build, and just do it for it. Because right now we're in like a 6-car garage that's like we have like 3/4 of it grow facility. So
Yeah, I don't park in my garage either.
yeah, I got a little pull-in area. I can almost pull a vehicle in left.
I'm sure I could, but
All right.
that means that I'm letting some temps out or some temps in, one of the two.
Yep.
So now we've washed our flour, we've washed in fresh frozen, half dry, whatever the hell. We've got our hash, right? I'm just kind of throwing some random questions out there that we haven't covered, I don't think, yet on the show with some solventless processors. When you have your hash and you're pressing it out, low and slow or high and fast, meaning low temperature, slow press, or higher, and I'm not meaning like high, absurd, higher temp and faster press.
So I've been all over the place. We started at 159 and about a 2-minute press, 3-minute press, depending on how much hash you had in the puck.
Yeah, of course, variables, right?
Yeah, there's too many. Every time I'm just like this. There's too many variables, or it's strain dependent, or it's this and that, and it's like really is. Like,
It is, man. It's
like when people are like, "Oh, how do you cook a jar down?" It's like, well, how long does it take? It's all strain
big's your
dependent,
jar?
and how much how much air stays, and like this is there's too many variables. I can't just tell you a set time. But all right, I'm gonna have a stoner moment. What were we just saying?
No, that's fine.
Something about variables.
Low and slow or hot and
Yeah.
fast.
So we're at 179 to 169 nowadays, and it's about the same 2-minute, 3-minute presses. Usually about a 30 to 45-second warm up time.
What kind of press? What kind of bags? How much you filling them with?
We've got the Sasquatch 2.0 or 2.5.
What size plates?
They're 12 by 5,
Jesus
12 and a half by
Christ.
5. They're big
That's
plates, yeah.
That's not small. Jesus.
So we use a variety of bags. We've done 2.5 by 10-inch bags, so we can fill like 150 grams in one bag. And then we mostly use the 2.25 by 4.25, or 4.5 by 2.5. Sorry. And I just was always using those with low temp, and now that I have this bigger press, I never really changed it, and I'm like, why haven't I that?
Dude, I'm the same exact. I mean, we
I
can
just
walk down
have
that
these
road.
bags, and it's like I always have extras of the 160 or the 25, so I'm just like, I just need to reorder more of these so they work together. And
I've literally found that is the sweet spot right there, the 2.5 by 4.5.
I've found that it's my favorite.
Do you think? I mean, I definitely have opinions on this. Do you think? So, I mean, you have 5 by 12 plates, right? Why can't you just press something 4 by 11, 4 by 3.5 by 10? Why wouldn't you just press the maximum you could on there? Fucking press
because most of the time
grams.
You don't have that much.
Okay, so, say you do. Why wouldn't you?
I mean, probably would, but really, I don't know.
You think you'd go to the whole thing and just blast it out at once?
I mean, we've done 160, I think, 169, 70, somewhere in there, I think, on one press before, when we're just trying to crank it out. Now I'm not really doing that as often. I'm about 100 grams now.
Time comes into a play big time there.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you think
more wasting bags, more time prepping, more parchment folding, all those extra time hours.
That quality can be gained by pressing less at a time?
I'm starting to believe more here and there. But we've also been playing around with like 15U instead of 25U bags. And now they even use. I want to give you a big. And now they even use 5U. They have 5U bags. They're a little more expensive, so
yes, they do.
It's just with making THCA, we've always had the 15U. So, but now they have the 5U. We just gotta set in every day.
All right, gentlemen, tell me the difference, because I'm sitting over here with a lot of options when it comes to my filtration, right? I'll bring them up in a second. You guys explain to me why you're using the what was it, the 5, the 15? What are the options here? Why would you use the different sizes? Please explain it to our viewers.
You want to take it, Smokey?
Yeah, it's just more refinement, more clean burn, more clean everything. Like just like all right, so we're collecting 73 heads roughly most of the time, 73U, and the bags we used to press were 25U. So it shouldn't have much go through that, but you're also pressing. So so now we started using 15U Rosin Revolution bags, and it's definitely, we've seen a cleaner burn, I feel, and cleaner, everything in the last probably 3 drops. We just started doing that. So,
and then when you moved down to 5,
we just tested the 5 in this last batch because I just got those in. We only did one first wash, half first wash and 5, half first wash and 15U.
When you say 5, are you talking 5.5? How many bags we got to start clarifying now, because fucking variables. Are you using 3 bags, I'm assuming?
Correct. 2 15s and then a 160U for the strength and grip.
Okay. When you use 25s, is it both 25s and a 160?
Correct.
And when you talk 5s, it's both 5s and a 160?
Yep.
Okay. Have you noticed any decrease in yield from either one of them?
We did not do the hash numbers on this last one. It was my friend was up and we just kind of did it really quick because he wanted it to be able to go home the next day, more or less. So we just pressed it out. But I'm gonna do some more testing. But I didn't see too much difference in the bag. Like you still had the window view. So I mean, that's where I go by. What are your thoughts on that? What are you seeing?
I mean, I'm noticing much cleaner rosin. Not a hell of a lot of difference in yield. However, there is some. And I feel this ties back into the low and slow or high and fast, along with the decreased micron size, let's say. Now we're talking about cutting out more waxes and lipids.
Correct.
So we're just making what we can much, much better. Now when we talk about an extraction, now we're extracting the oil and leaving behind as much of the cuticle and the waxes and lipids as possible.
That's a good thing, guys. That means cleaner bangers. That means cleaner dabs. That means a more refined hit.
Absolutely.
Cleaner medicine.
More
Yep.
consistent.
I'm happy to say that we've actually made the switch to that because, I didn't even think twice about it before, because like I said, we were pressing THCA always in 15Us from day one when we've been doing THCA. So when it's like, man, why did we not throw one of these 15Us on ever? It's like, I don't know, it's the standard. Everybody uses this, so we're just going to do this.
So
there we go. Yeah,
these are kind of the options real quickly that I, have. I put everything through pretty much, I don't know, it's kind of hard to tell sizes here, but everything pretty much through a 1.5 inch mesh gasket that looks just like this. There's a good variety of options here, everything from 2000 micron down to 5 micron. And this would really just to be holding back a paper filter, I would say, in the case of
like a coffee filter.
Yeah, because I would go unbleached, of course, but you got to hold material back somehow, and you're not grinding the material down, but little leaf matter and
so these screens aren't holding plant material back.
They will, yeah, they will.
But the main holding back is the paper. Is that what you're getting at? Or
it depends
it's like
on your setup.
It's like the double bag, Pedro. It's the exact same concept, really.
Yeah, man. Because I mean,
one for strength and one for the filter size. Well, I guess strength and filter size in your case are the same one.
So if we look at a hemispherical tri-clamp reducer, which is something that is a component of my system, some of these will come with a filter plate integrated in there. That can either hold a mesh gasket like we were just showing, or a filter paper, or a coffee filter, or whatever, what have you. I'm not sure if it's going to show up in any. Yeah, there you go, right here. So something like this. So it's still like that's now we're talking. I don't know what 5,000 micron, like 20,000 micron. Like that's not holding back material either. It's just a base for some sort of filter paper or filtration device. But yeah, either way, you're still going to need on the BHO end. We're making a chemical liquid mixture that we have to move through the material into a vessel that doesn't contain contaminants, ideally, without CRC. And the only way to do that is either some sort of stainless steel mesh gasket like that, or a paper filtration device that's not going to add anything to your extract. And yeah, I mean, there's a lot of varieties with the micron sizes there. I don't go all the way down to the 5 because in my experience that just runs too slowly. I'm running passively and under vacuum, which I also think is funny because maybe it's not extraction because we're running under vacuum, so there's no pressure. Maybe there's effort, but there's no pressure added. Going back to that definition, sorry. But I do
makes my brain fucking dudes jumping jacks over here, dude.
Trust me, I'm sitting there driving down the road, like talking at my Google, like just like make some comments about like chemical extractor. We're actually operating on a vacuum, so there's no pressure involved. But we have a variety of obviously micron sizes to use. I haven't used I think maybe I've tried the 5 micron or somewhere near that lower end, and it just runs so slowly, guys, because I'm not using some sort of additional mechanism like a pump to push the solvent along. I'm just relying on the solvent moving from one area that's less vacuum to one area that's more vacuum, essentially. Turning it from gas liquid and all that. In the process somewhere, I've got to hold back this material. Usually I use, I think, in that like 50 micron range, but I am also using like a coffee filter that kind of is a base.
And you guys are packing it pretty good too, aren't you?
I actually did just purchase a new stainless steel packing rod to kind of help tamper down, because I was using one that was way too small and it was just kind of annoying. Now I have the appropriately sized one. Again, like always upgrading the parts, right, guys?
Too small of a rod for the big hole is problematic.
Like throwing a hot dog down a hallway, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know how I'm gonna pack all this material down in here. There's 1,600 grams I'm supposed to put in here. I'm just stuffing it down with nothing. No, but yeah, I do pack it down. I try not to I'm not trying to brick it out, you know what I mean? But we want to condense a little bit. I don't want like big gaps or anything like that either. So somewhere in between there, I guess. It's just nice to kind of fit the appropriate amount of material, I guess, really.
All right. I got to get back to this. Mr. Smokey here mentioned some letters here. It made me want to jump to my next question. So we got rosin. Yeah. And then you said THCA. And my question from the outside, and I'm just because I want to be cynical and whatnot, why the fuck would we take something that looks like this, separate it down into THCA and terpenes, essentially, and then in most cases just fucking introduce them back to each other? What are we doing?
So I personally like diamonds, the THCA diamonds, because they're 99.7% THCA. So when I'm having bad back issues or from plucking all day or doing something, bending over all day,
so you won't do a dab of diamond. You'll stop at you won't reintroduce. You'll just smoke the THCA.
No. We'll introduce, but so the reason why I reintroduce is the diamonds will actually oxidize with air pretty fast. They'll turn dark orange or purple or black or so you got to watch it. I've learned that over the years, because we used to, even in the freezer, it will still turn. So like they're still getting air. I haven't tried the vacuum seal tech on it and to make sure. Yeah, I've got some. These are the last ones we made at our hash class here.
These still have a little bit of terpenes there. That was more of a failed attempt, and so the terpenes oxidized as well. Blah 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 blah.
Yeah, these. But it's the terpenes just help keep it from oxidizing faster, I feel, and that's why we do it. Plus, what are you going to do with the terps? I didn't have an out for terps, and I didn't put them in the cap.
This is where I can come in. So terps are a solvent, and terps actually help grow the diamonds. And terps, that high terpene fraction we're talking about, will still have somewhere in the range of 40 to 60% THC in it. At least when it comes to BHO. I'm not sure exactly with your guys' process, but I imagine
I'm guessing it depends on how you press it from the mechanical separation part, because that's what I'm talking about. Because you can press too hard or too hot and get THCA into the terp, and that becomes a little more sugary terp or solid validity terp profile.
Let me just
that's
say
when
that
you press too hard.
Making THCA, solventless THCA, is a pain in the ass. You guys thought the process of making hash.
Everything you guys do is a pain in the ass.
Oh no, this is a pain in the ass times 10.
Okay.
And man, you can fuck some material up more so than even. I mean, it's the dangers of holy shit.
So it's again strain dependent. So like our Death Star is a wet one always. So that will just squirt out so much terps to THCA. So you'll have the terp ratio will be way up here, and the diamonds will be down here, and then I have like my bubblegum breath and my double butter. Compress those, and I'll have tons of diamonds, and I'll have a little bit of terp. I think it's just the higher THCA content in the bud. That's where we always kind of base it off of, because those two strains sometimes will butter up off the press. What I mean by that is that like it almost crystallizes and almost goes into a cold cure right off the press. Not all the time, but it definitely is a fun thing to play with. But first, you're going to make the isolate, which is the pure white chunky stuff where you break it down into a powder and make it look like cocaine.
And we're demonetized. No, I'm just kidding.
And we're done. No, no. But the isolate is actually probably the purest and the most stable form it can be is when it's in that white powder form or the white chunk form, because it won't oxidize as much. It won't. I don't think it will go bad, really. There's no taste with it, so you can dab it at 700 degrees or 300 degrees. It doesn't matter. It's all the same taste.
Would it not convert to CBN, though?
That's where I'm not sure. That's where I would like to do a test and send it in.
It'd be nice
probably,
to be able to do it
probably with oxidization, I'm guessing it would.
Yeah, I guess you got it under Vaxseal or something. And
yeah, I've kept mine in jars usually until I'm ready to make diamonds for a little while, and they might wait a week or so even. But then when you cook it to the diamonds or press it through to make the diamonds, and that's a little hotter temp to make that.
I think you're right, though. I think it probably would take the oxidation to convert it. You know what I mean? Because it's not like it's still attached to a plant material or something like that would, I guess, further that process.
Right.
I think you could freeze it in time. I certainly feel like I've experienced that by vac-sealing and freezing jars for several years and never not opening them until 3 to 5 years later, and it's like the same fucking thing, man.
I have to agree with. I don't know if I agree with this comment, but this is an interesting one. We know that when we dab rosin at much higher temperatures, it can be carcinogenic. It can produce carcinogenic, substances. Do we think that THCA is immune to producing carcinogenic side effects if it's dabbed at too high of a temperature?
Good question.
Right, I know. And this is what I was trying to interject a second ago, is that I've even talked to recently a couple solventless and hydrocarbon extractors around the area. These things would be known if we could test. But the unfortunate thing is, let me take this off the screen, sorry. The unfortunate thing is that on a commercial level, which is, at least in Colorado, the only way that you can test, it's too goddamn expensive to keep throwing things back in and testing it and this and that. And the problem is if at any point in time you fail a test, then it opens up a whole new fucking ball of worms, So
wait, don't you guys have R&D testing?
Well, yes. I mean, yeah, and I'm not involved with the hell of a lot of the post-processing testing and everything.
Still expensive as fuck, though.
But yes, it's still expensive, and there's still a problem if you do fail, that you can have certain liberties taken from you, blah 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 blah. And so it would be really nice it'd be really nice for me to, right here, perfect fucking example. I'd love to just take the residual, pour it off, send it in, and get it fucking tested. I want to take one hit off of a banger, a dab, pour it into a thing, and prove that me taking one hit is just as effective as, I've said it before, this ain't crack. We don't need to hit it 17 fucking times in order to get what we need to get out of it. All right. So I'd love to be able to test personally outside of the commercial market things that we're talking about right here.
So we used to be able to do that here in Michigan, and I think we still I'm not really even sure, because the lab that I used for nearly a decade closed down. So I actually don't have that information right now.
I've used Analytics, I think it's called, up here in Traverse City, and we did a when I washed the greenhouse for a couple guys, I told them, I'm like, the only way I'm going to wash it is if we get it tested, so I can show to my clients that it's good. And we tested it. It was $695 and 7 grams.
Damn.
7 grams for a full panel test.
So that's even more expensive than PSI. I think they were, well, actually for the extraction, it was $550 and 7 grams, I think, last I saw. That might have gone up though, before they close. It's insanity. And honestly, with labs closing, the prices are only going to go up because there's less competition.
It is.
That's why I think fewer people doing quality BHO is not a good thing. I want more competition out there. There needs to be more people making quality hash, whether that's on the solventless side, break it down, man. You know what I mean? We're talking. I feel like I bring this up every show now, but Temple Ball, real hashish, right? To solventless, to rosin, to BHO, to not the D word, the dirty disty. I don't think we should be really going down that road, but there is a reason or a spot for everything. And if we're talking that D word, it is edibles, and I get it. You know what I mean? It's not. There's a lot missing from it, but let's be honest, there's a lot of poorly grown material out there that only has one purpose, and that is distillate.
Yeah.
I completely forgot about what I was just going to say there. I had a great addition to the conversation, and I blanked it out.
Save the mids for the disty.
It'll come back in about 45 more seconds.
Yeah. What's your favorite strain to wash? You talked about growing several strains for 5+ years. I'm pretty proud of the fact that I've actually I made a calendar. I was going to work on making some shirts and didn't even get that far with the artwork. So maybe those will come out later this year, but I'm celebrating my 10-year anniversary this year. And I've been growing some strains for 8 years, propagating the same exact clone for that long. I think it's pretty impressive when people can do that. I also think it's pretty impressive when people can commit to the 100% seed popping like Superior does, and then anything in between. It's just you do you, right? It's your own philosophy.
Yep.
But to propagate a strain that long, yeah, right or not. What's your favorite strains to wash and why?
Mine that I've found so far over the years would be the bubblegum breath, because I pheno hunted that from seed, of course. It does well. Then we have the Death Star, which everybody loves from us. It's like straight gas, and that one does really well. So
it's really funny you said that too, because I had never smoked it when I lived downstate. But when I moved up here, the first bag I got that was sold to me was Death Star. They're like, dude,
how
it's
long ago was
in the
that?
greenhouse. 7 years ago. Yeah,
we've got Blue Dream still. We've got LA Confidential, Critical Kush, Death Star. I mean,
wait, you got my wait. Critical, wait. You got Critical
Here
Kush?
we go. Hour and a half.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. Wait. Where did you get your Critical Kush from?
Where did I get that one from? It was from a grower.
Some dude out in Colorado. Or...
No, it was a friend here. But it's mine is like. I always like to describe it. It's got like a coffee, blueberry, blackberry chirp to it.
Interesting. All right.
Yeah, it's really loud, but it doesn't wash well. It's like a 2.5%.
Well, that's a bummer. Because it's very funny to me, because I think I don't even know the time I've been growing Critical Kush and processing. I don't think I've ever heard anyone else grow Critical Kush before and process Critical Kush. Mine was more of a. Mine was gotten from. I grew it and hunted it myself from Barney's farm, and which is one of the first times I've remembered actually where I've gotten it from. And I hunted it myself, and it started out as a sweet Kush, straight sweet Kush. And then it took on, it's genetically drifted. I've had it for 8 or 9 years now, however long I've had it. And then it kind of took on a mentholy flavor. And now it's more of just this. I wish I had something in front of me. More of just kind of a funky, taking the funky Kush kind of stance to it, So I've always gotten really good returns with it, which is another interesting point.
Ooh.
Fresh frozen Critical Kush, the one that I grow, sucks washing
Yes.
it fresh frozen.
That's
but half
Yes.
dry is amazing.
See, and that's what I'm thinking, because the last time I
Yes.
washed it was when I was doing the dry days. So
I've been itching
I
to
have to
make
try
that
it.
connection for like 3 minutes,
But
guys. I
no,
want you
so
to
many
try
people
the
don't
half dry.
understand that. Yeah, there's certain strains like Mac. If you do a dry on it, it will wash a little better.
No, see, I do, and I'm a very big proponent of the half dry. As a matter of fact, in the facility that I'm working up in Parachute, the only reason they're growing a pheno hunted version of the Critical Kush that it is because I got them to wash it after half drying it. In a commercial setting, it's a fucking nightmare to harvest, dry, buck at the right time, then go to freeze. It's a nightmare, but it's almost necessary for certain cultivars. And I think, and we are coming to the conclusion that we're potentially throwing cultivars out that could be half dry washers. And we're proving over and over and over and over again with our testing that it's not losing the terpenes that everybody thinks it and maybe says it is.
No, we're the only thing that the 6-7 day or whatever, I've gone up to 12 days before. Actually, I've washed one. My friends came back to me. He's like, I've got this couple ounces of this stuff. You want to wash it? It's about a month old or so, but I've sealed it in a jar and stuff. I'm like, fuck it, let's wash it. And dude, the plant already didn't have much terps to begin with, which was the plant. I got rid of that plant. It was 6% washer though. Like it was the Gorilla Glue and 9-pound hammer cross. It was Slammer from Prison City Genetics. I got it at High Times here in 2016, I think.
I grew a lot
And
of cross.
And it dumped hash, but it just didn't have that punch in the face. So I got rid of it. And where was I going with this now? Shit.
Your friend brought some dried over to wash.
Oh yeah, the dried.
Oh yeah, the month cured stuff, and it dumped, and it was some of the clearest pressing stuff I ever pressed to date before the Clear Tech came out. You know what I mean?
What's Clear Tech?
Clear Tech's just vacuum sealing it, so basically you're just getting all the air out between the heads of the hash. So there's no micro bubbles coming out.
Some people pissed off at you. I think there's gonna be some people coming after you now.
Wait,
you don't. Yeah, no, you don't have to vacuum seal it. No, because like I said,
vacuum sealing what? Vacuum seal the rosin bag?
Not me.
The hash bag.
It's technically, I guess I would say. Now here we are going through definitions. Any process of removing air prior to, and I'll even
extracting air or separating the air out.
Yeah, right. I don't guess I don't even know. I guess this one air probably would be, I don't know, right? Receiving the air out. Because it's coming through the fucking rosin bags, right? Receiving it. It's a process of which can be done via vacuum sealing, but it's a process of removing the air prior to the oil coming out of becoming visible coming out of the press. The most prevalent way that people do that.
There's multiple ways to do it. There's pre-pressing. You can do it on the press itself. There's also
air extraction, right? I would almost. It's funny because I would almost argue that it is extracting the air from the fucking hash.
We're airbenders
using effort or force.
I know, right?
Especially when.
So I'm gonna go down another route there too with you on the extraction. Again, back to having rosin now. Cold cure, fresh press.
So when I first started, it was fresh presser only, or Jam Tech, because what Diet Funk or Rosin Ryan was putting out a little bit of information on the Jam Tech at the time when I first started. So it was either that or fresh press, and I hate fresh press because you're like, oh shit, there goes a bunch of fucking shatter. Just there goes a gram. I just lost a gram on the fucking floor now, and it's carpet because I'm doing it in the fucking basement of my house and like a table.
Rolling your Still trying to get it to roll.
Yeah,
around your
just
desk.
I'm trying to heat it up a little bit or warm it up by like moving it around or whatever. But yeah, ultimately it's still like gets too cold. It's like snap, shatter fucking days. Like who the hell's idea was thinking that was like the fun thing to do? Like I want to shatter.
For real, bro. Shatter don't
But
matter.
Yeah,
fresh
exactly. What
fresh press is good. It's got its points. But ultimately cold cure's just been what's been wanted. I mean, I've always put out what
do
the people
you
want.
prefer?
And
What do you prefer?
cold cure, I still don't like to deal with the fresh press, to be honest. And plus, it all turns to cold cure anyways.
I've been
That's
replaying it in
gonna
my
piss
head.
people off.
I've been replaying it in my head since last week when it was last week. I said when SB&B was here.
I was gonna pull up. I was gonna try to find the clip of him.
Yeah, when we were talking
smack.
about whether or not cold cure is degradation.
So I argue this with a classmate that I had in my class all the time.
It's
He's
kind
always
of a
like,
hot
it's
topic.
it's degradation, and you're messing it up. You're messing it up. I'm like, okay, so I do a lot of fast curing. I call it fast curing.
Yeah.
Basically,
Speed
it's just
curing.
it's speed curing. You're just getting it to nucleate faster. That's all you're doing. And now that low temp dropped this tech about this bath thing, and I'm like, I do the same shit in the oven for the last years. I don't know why we got to use water to maybe mess up our jars, but whatever. But I've always had the same thing is like if you press it at whatever temp it is, try to keep it at the temp and don't ever go over that temp. Because each terpene has its own boiling point, so you just gotta watch it. But ultimately, yeah, most of the time when you're dealing with clients and they want their money, and you're talking big clients I was working with back in the day, they don't want to wait. You're already waiting a week or two to get it processed, and then it's like how long you want to wait for it to cold cure. And I've got Just Star that can take a whole month.
I know.
If it's that cold.
Especially depending on the temperatures, right?
Yeah. So
Yeah,
like
we just had a cyclical conversation regarding, degradation, maturation, and curing. Like what, and I think I don't even know what we ultimately came, but it's kind of like preference, because some people like wine, and wine isn't degraded. Wine is
I've got my jars just sitting here on my table that I dab at room temp, and normally I'm not like that. Yeah. Normally I'm not like that. During the summer I definitely won't because it'll get too hot.
Yeah.
They'll just be melty mush. But during the winter I can get away with leaving it out more time than none. I got a mini fridge right here. I can throw them in any time. I usually just, if I have a full jar, I'll make sure it goes in. But if I'm running low on the jars, good to get out. But ultimately, yeah, degradation will happen. It will turn into that spicy stuff. I don't know if you've had old rosin when it's just all spice. Basically, at that point, it's like almost a cinnamon spice.
Kind of looks like
it turns
sometimes too.
it turns bright orange or dark orange or brown or something, and yeah, even some of the melty ones will turn like even that. So it's just insane.
Sometimes I actually tried bringing this up with SB&V, tried to get him to kind of admit it last week. But sometimes us hash makers, we either number one, we have mids. We make mids. We do. We don't show it all the time, but we have and we make mids.
Everybody has mids. It's strain dependent.
Thank you. It either turns into
Pheno dependent, really. Too.
Yeah, it either turns into food grade or we fucking smoke it ourselves.
I've ate a lot of L's the last year because of all the pheno hunting.
Right.
Hold on, I gotta be right back. 1 second.
Well, Superior, how are things? How's your potential hash production coming along?
Good. Getting closer. Got some
How are
new seeds on the way, new testers to play around with here.
Any kind of lineage you want to drop on us? Because I'm about to harvest this raspberry parfait finally, and I'm pretty excited about that one. I'm going to turn
Alien
probably
Rift
95%.
cross.
Ooh, really?
Yeah. So
okay.
It'll be a
Okay,
nice
a little
one.
throwback.
Yeah. Little of the old, little cross with little of the new. So it'll be a fun one to see. It was one of my favorite grows in the past couple of years. Some new genetics on the way here.
Alien Rift cross.
Bring the garden back up.
Ooh.
Unfortunately, my stream's down right now because my stream computer decided to
I saw
crap.
that.
Oh no,
So-
really?
Yeah,
These
just woke
are-
up and it was done.
These are fun new projects of ours here. We took strawberries and cream from exotic genetics and kept the male and bred it with everything that we have that washes so far, and some non-washers even. And these are
Yeah.
actually males of the cross right here that we're probably going to back cross into some lines and mess around. More
Awesome.
for in-house right now. We might do some seed collab launches at some point. We're actually working on dropping our double butter back to Fresh Coast seeds to do a collab with them here soon.
Cool.
We're
You
also
know,
looking at
It's
doing some metric
another
collabs.
reason to get yourself a microscope, man. Start peeking at those necks.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're looking at doing some metric collabs even here in probably the future this year. We're hoping to get it off the ground here in Michigan. So
Very cool.
yeah, the biggest problem is us living so far north that most of the labs popped up downstate 4 hours or more away from me, and it's like they all wanted me to come down and do work there, and it's like, I'm not
I wish
relocating. I'm not. Yeah.
Wish we had something that was smaller scale that could be set up to do the testing. You know,
Right.
if it didn't cost as much as it did to set up a lab, that would be a
It's
fun project up here.
It's not even the testing that gets too expensive. It's the delivery on top of the testing. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? That's the other thing that people don't talk about is like you got to get it delivered, and then you got to make sure that vehicle's got a heated or cooled freaking thing to be able to haul your stuff. So, like,
And here's where I was going to say, when I lost my thought before, was that I really respect somebody when asked a question, depending on the question, of course, when they say, I don't know, because a lot of times in the cannabis industry, we don't know because we can't test because it's not federally legal. We can't run this R&D, or at least we can't afford to because commercial market's struggling to survive as it is.
Well, yeah, and let alone as a home grower. Like if we have the freaking money to do that, I don't know who does. I mean, I did find that clip from SBNV if we want to watch it real quick.
Yeah, him and I
Sure,
chat all
yes.
the time here too.
Hell yeah.
Excellent.
I lost the question.
Let's say after you press it, right? Let's say the decarb that happens during the press is negligible. Whatever tank you press at, you press at.
Okay.
You finally have your product. It's fresh press in a jar.
Okay.
You have two options: put it in the freezer, or you leave it on your desk, right, at 60 to 70 degrees. Okay. Would you say that putting it in the freezer is going to stop or halt the decarboxylation process?
Minimally slow drastically, yes. Now
Okay.
I try to steer away from the stop, but
yeah,
it does,
I mean,
yes.
yeah, it's gonna.
Yes.
In all intents and purposes, it'll stop it, right?
Correct.
It also
Slows it down.
oxidation. There's kind of 3 points there. There's the temperature, there's light exposure or UV exposure, and then there's also oxidation. So if you can remove all three of those elements in a freezer, yeah.
There's variables.
Yep. So then the other option is to leave it out at room temperature, right? Let's say light's not an option. Let's say oxygen is not an issue. They're both vacuum sealed in jars that are light proof, right?
Okay.
The temperatures are variable here.
Okay.
The one that's sitting on the desk is now decarboxylating, whether it be at a slow rate or not. It's happening.
Mhm.
To me, I would call that degradation.
Mhm.
You know what
I
other people
agree.
call that?
What?
Fucking cold cure.
No. Cold cure. And I mean, I think I think I took a stance immediately, but I was like, at the end of the day, yes, but then is wine degrading? I mean, to some people, it's maturing. It's
Plus, you're supposed to let it air for a minute before you.
So it almost becomes
right. Cabernet is 10 minutes open right before you even pour it.
Yeah, you got to let all your terpenes out.
Yeah.
So my biggest thing is how loud is your fresh press is compared to your cold cure? I know that's where they say, oh, that's because you're smelling the degradation of terp. But really, is it?
No, I don't.
Because my jar will still smell the same. It will still smell the same from here from a month from now. Even if I put it in the fridge or freezer, still just like he does with his fresh press. You know what I mean?
I think
Nothing against
generally
the
I
fresh
don't
press
get.
game. I have no hate on anyone that wants to do the fresh press or that. But no, I just think that's just the only game they can really throw at the cold cure game for hate.
That's fair, and I don't know if he was necessarily hating. I think we were more
No,
defining at that point. Yeah, and I know you talked to him and stuff, but I will say, from my experience on the processing side of a chemical extraction process, if I'm doing fresh frozen, which I typically am because I'm trying to capture the essence of the plant on the day of harvest, if I'm doing fresh frozen and that's taken long term and not stored properly, it will mature. It will degrade. It will whatever oxidize, whatever it's doing. There's something there that changes it. And I do find that a lot of similar profiles that I like have a similar result if they're not stored properly, say 6 months to a year down the road. They start not all, but they some of them start smelling like a similar product, and I assume that's because certain terpenes of those profiles are oxidizing at different or similar rates, right? And so you might be left with kind of a similar byproduct, if you
100%.
will, at the end. Which again, I think a byproduct is it's a mature, degraded, it's not what we're looking for, at least not what I'm looking for.
Words that were like
Well,
back.
We'll call it mids because it all smells the same, like you were saying. That's what I would say. Mid's good terming. It just smells the same at the end. So, I mean, technically, we all make mids, right?
In the end,
I don't.
end.
I generally don't like cold cure because to me, I don't get as much of I don't get it hardly any smell. It's not as pungent to me generally.
Really?
And B, it's harsh. Now, whether that's because it has more terpenes or because the terpenes haven't degraded or matured or whatever, it's harsh. I don't enjoy fresh press
100%.
in the most case for the most case.
I like the term sharp. I know you used that in the past, Pedro, and I've used that term since we've had that discussion with a few people, in person about that specifically, the fresh frozen, if you will, and how it will maintain a higher level of terpenes for sure. But it also brings like a sharper presence of can bring a sharper presence of terpenes. And I think that's certainly, cultivar dependent.
Big time. I've noticed some because I've been paying attention to it more. Some cold cure isn't the same,
Have we tested fresh press versus cold cure the same strain for terpene levels?
I have not.
Maybe that will finish all of our arguments.
Right? I mean, that's all we need, honestly. Like,
really, I mean, that's truly
to be able to really
somebody
who's got $700 and 7 grand.
Somebody has. I bet you. I mean, Oleo has to, right? Because they provide fresh press and they provide cold cure and they provide.
So does 710. Yeah.
770. Sorry, I think that's what I actually meant to say, but that's kind of funny. So they have to. My understanding of MED is now running through my head. So just speaking out loudly, they would have to test individually for that, then, right? For the final product.
But for terpenes, not necessarily.
That's
that's the problem here.
Agreed. The terpenes is state by state and everything, but so
only
is
Alaska.
And so is contaminants, and so is mold.
Right,
and
right.
It's all required at different points and times in the process, and it's.
I feel like the things I've noticed over the years, just recently, I should say, not over the years, is that the terpene levels depend on how wet the rosin is. Like, you know what I mean? I feel like some of the higher terpene percentages we're seeing are usually almost jam packed. You know what I mean? Compared to a cold cure or a fresh press.
The funny thing that I've been seeing, and I mean, we could go in on this for Christ's sake for another
just
half
an
hour.
observation of my own.
I've seen a lot of rosin that's come out that's actually dry, but terpy as fuck. And how the hell is that possible?
I also would like to know. I assume it's because they're capturing full heads or something like that. But if you say it's rosin, then I don't know.
I don't
Yeah, that's
either.
weird.
I don't either. I mean, I smoked specifically. We've had, I believe, peanut butter breath and Eddie Boy here is going to correct me in chat. It was either honeybee or tropic. I think it was honeybee, honey banana, that came out, and especially after cold cure, very dry, but still very terpy.
Do you know what percentage terpenes we're talking? Because I have seen some claims that I really aggressively want to call BS on, but I'm not, you know.
I think that really depends on where because you can send in testing on hash and you can send in testing on rosin, you can send on the cold cure, the jam, and people can really be deceiving on what they will then post or whatnot. I mean, not everything's fucking honest out here. Let's.
I was gonna say,
I know.
do we even believe the percentages? So how much would we believe the terpene percentages?
Right.
Again, that's why
Yeah.
I don't want to like constantly call bullshit, but I feel like there's a certain level of experience where you can just visually look at something and be like, nah, it's not checking out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, I don't recall the exact numbers off the top of my head. Of course, again, that's strain dependent, highly strain dependent. But
Dude, I walked into a dispensary one time here in Michigan when we as caregivers were allowed to provide to them, and this guy claimed that he had a strain that was over 20% by volume terpenes. We laughed at him and said, "Sir, that would be mush. You'd be
Right.
holding
Yeah.
a bag of mush if it was 20% terpenes.
Your terpenes would be like be
It'd
melting.
be at the bottom of the
microns.
bag. You'd have a bag of water full of a bag of herbs. It doesn't make any sense, sir. You're full of shit. You don't get my weed. Good day."
Yeah, that's somebody that doesn't comprehend
Anything
going on.
basic science. I don't know. It's just like I mean, it was just one of those dick swinging contests. You get that a lot in this industry. It sucks, but
It is unfortunate.
The 40 percenters now.
hey, that's why lab tests are great. I
Hey,
still don't
didn't-
believe the 30 percenters.
California just went
Right.
down 7% because they just leveled the playing
I
field or
saw
some
that
shit.
too. I saw you guys should pull up that, maybe Superior, if you can pull up that article. I don't know if you came across it, but
It's like
yeah,
down to
California
20-something
standardized some
percent.
sort of testing, and it like brought down over the course of like 6 months or so, they brought down the THC average by like 7% or whatever.
Yeah, there's no more 30%ers. I could tell you that.
That's what I'm saying, dude. It's
And that's what I was saying too, is you can test things along different points of the line, and there are ways where you can be deceptive by cutting different corners and whatnot in the industry, and it's unfortunate that companies do take advantage of it.
Yeah, it's sad because we've had stuff tested back when we were doing the caregiver stuff. Like we're still doing the caregiver stuff, obviously, but we were sending in stuff just to see where we fell on the test in flour, and you could send in two of the same exact flours, and they'll get two different tests back in the day. So we gave up on testing a long time ago.
Yeah, as far testing on percentages of terpenes and cannabinoids and whatnot, while extremely beneficial for medicinal value, I think is much less important. And I think there's nobody that can disagree. I think it's much less important than testing for contaminants, yeast, mold, and whatnot.
100%.
Knowing but I do, on that same note, think that the THC, judging on the THC percentage, seems to be a big thing, and it's an uneducated stance, But I think there just needs to be so much more education on the cannabinoids and terpenes and their potential. We don't have to claim anything, but their potential benefits. I mean, there's historical fucking benefits,
And that's what I always say. The entourage effect is more important than anything. And that's
Absolutely.
cumulative of everything, not just
You
the
could have-
terpenes, not just the percentage.
You could have higher terpenes, lower THCA, and which will fuck you up way more in some instances than higher THCA and lower terpenes.
As long as you have the right
100%.
terpenes, the right flavored terpenes are
And
huge for
receptors.
certain medicinal
and receptors.
values and receptors.
Everybody takes things differently.
Yeah, so like back in the day, I could NyQuil, the stuff that would make you sleepy or whatever when you were a kid or whatever. I'd have the reverse effects on me. I would be
shit.
like wired.
Oh,
So
wow.
like I feel like it's
Oh,
the same thing
man.
with edibles. I could eat edibles for days, and it really doesn't affect me. I feel like whatever that is, the processor in your liver, whatever they
Yeah,
say,
metabolite or whatever.
yeah,
Enzyme,
metabolism.
whatever it is.
The exact
Yeah.
opposite.
I'm on about
Yeah.
I'm on about 1,200 milligrams tonight, so I wonder if I'm kind of the same way.
Yeah, dude. People are always like, "How can you eat so much?" I'm like, "Just food to me."
Pedro, we've seen you at the end of these shows. That definitely affects you. I want to try and see if I can make a big enough or heavy enough dose cookie to affect Smokey the Bear. Smokey, are you going to be at Hash Bash Cup this coming week?
Sadly, no. We signed up for this dinner up here in Manistee because the Puna Hash is actually pretty close to us in Manistee. That's what we're hoping to team up with them and work on a collab with them because they're about 45 to an hour from our house.
Excellent. Well, we need to link up soon to do a hash trade because I'm always looking for the best rosin, and I'm telling you, I'm struggling to find it. I've found some from Pedro that's been excellent and has really changed my opinion on it. We've had some great hash makers on this episode or on this show, and there's not been too many of them that have been, within range of me. But next time I'm either up in wine country or you're down in I guess the southern half of the state, we're definitely gonna have to link up, and I would love to trade up because I would love to try some of your hash, man. I've heard just amazing things about it over the years. I've seen it all over the place, and I don't think we've really had the chance to really experience each other's
Oh
medicine.
yeah, and I think I've had your stuff a long time ago. The Clementine something.
It hasn't changed. It's same Clementine. I got that right here too.
Yeah, that was a good one.
There you go. Yep. Still going.
Yep.
That's one of those strains that I've been growing for 7-8 years or whatever. Same with the lime skunk. But yeah, I'd love to try your Critical Kush, especially because now that I've tried Pedro's, the Death Star. I know Red Setter talked in here. I think I've grown Death Star in the past. It's definitely a great strain.
Not a fan of it, to be honest. I literally got rid of that cut the first day I started washing because we only had one plant left, and it was like a 8-foot plant. And I'm like, fuck this plant. It's like the worst plant. It's slow growing. And I just threw it over in the corner. And I'm like, whatever. I'm done with it.
And it was slow growing?
It was because I was growing massive plants at the time.
Okay.
Massive
plants. Hold on.
So we had this huge plant in the corner, and I'm like, all right, we cut it down, and I'm like, let's just wash it. I don't like smoking this shit. It's too gassy for me. Like, I'm like, let's wash it. And we cranked out so much weight off that, and we got like 6% return on it. And we're like, all right, we need that cut back, buddy. Like, we picked it up after we went to our first show. We did what was the first show? 2018, I think, or 19. When did Rec come in again?
19. That was the Detroit show. Like Cannabis Cup was 2019.
There was two of them, wasn't there, the same year?
There was.
We went to the first
racetrack,
5 times on the racetrack. Yeah.
Yep. So yeah, that was that would have been the June or July. I think it was June.
Yep. Yeah, because we teamed up with all the Northern boys. We had Fresh Coast Seeds, Light Sky Farms, and
Light Sky Farms. Damn, that's like a sign on a building nowadays. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, yeah, that's a fun one. Yeah, we just try to stick to ourselves and try to put out the best stuff we can.
Have you worked? I know I really would love to. We only got a few minutes left, and I wanted to let you kind of tell us a little bit about your, kind of your education and kind of what you provide in that regard. But I also am curious to know if you provide that to the commercial industry, if you do any consulting in that regard, because early on in the pandemic, at least, or especially, I should say, there was certainly a lot of people looking for help, and I know that hasn't changed that much in terms of people looking for help. It's just the money situation. Like, everyone needs help and they don't have money now. So, but I'm curious to know what your experiences are on the education side, and especially with meeting Julian and him telling how he filmed it, and just like tell us about that in your classes real quick if you could.
Yeah. I started out, I was just doing classes as far as training people at their own place. So I went and trained a guy in a little farther north than I was, and we became pretty good friends over the years. And we taught him on just basic wash stuff and press stuff. And, I was still beginning myself. Like, I was only a couple years in. I was still making good stuff, but um, I just felt like there was still a niche for people to learn, because it was such a new thing and there wasn't much information out there on the internet. Because I know it was the biggest question that was, what temperature do you press at, was the biggest,
It
hottest
still is.
question.
It still
And
is.
How do
it's
you
still
dry
one of the
hash
hottest.
without a freeze dryer?
Yeah, that too. And so, where was I going with that? Damn it.
I know.
Educational classes and informing
Yeah.
people on how to do it
So
right.
we went from that, and then I went to a commercial facility and taught somebody at a commercial facility over 3 days, and that was a fun time. But then I went and started this classes because I seen other people starting classes from other states in California. They actually were coming out to Oklahoma because Oklahoma started coming online, and I'm like, why don't we do this before somebody comes to Michigan from out of state and starts taking our money back to other states? I'm like, I like to keep our money local, and I'm like, let's just start this class. I'm like, I'm not a person that really is. I'm kind of a shy person, except for when it comes to hash. So I was able to do this. There was no way in hell I'd be teaching kids in school or any of this stuff or college. So like hash, I can talk about for a long time. So
wait, are you saying you are an introvert or you're not? You're more
I'm
of
an introvert. No,
okay, but you can talk about hash. I see what you're
yeah,
saying.
yeah.
I see what you're
I
saying.
like to. Where I live, we have 20 acres. We live up on a road that's
Yeah,
almost
dude.
like a dead end, and
Dirt
I like
road.
my privacy, and
Yep.
and nothing against people and all that. It's just, I don't know. We've also got a farm with horses and stuff like that. That's something
yeah.
that I don't talk about a lot. So we don't have the time like everybody else has. We're usually having to get back here because we don't have somebody that takes care of all of our animals.
A farmhand, bro. It's so hard to find a farmhand.
Well, yeah, the farther north you go, it's even worse because like no one wants to work up here. They're
no one's doing
worthless.
it. Yeah.
So it's like they want to do their own thing, which I don't blame them. I would want to do my own thing. That's why
They're
I'm
up there
doing my
doing
own
the
thing.
same thing as you. Yeah.
So,
They're
like,
trying to find help too.
right. So yeah, it's fun to find a farmhand. So it's always, we've cut out the 2-day events more or less now, and now it's just 1-day events for us. And we haven't even done an event almost a year now because we went to a smaller scale because we lost one of our clients, or we just were stopped working together, and we actually started focusing more single source and working with some of our close friends, and that's about it now.
Real quick. I gotta say, oh man, I got two things. We're running out of time here, but we go for so long. Yeah, I already lost one of them. All right, real quickly, can you define single source now that you brought that up again?
So that's a fun one because that's going to start a lot of arguments probably
exactly.
too. But,
Define it like a dictionary.
To me, single source is you started it, you grown it, you processed it, you sell it, you packaged it, you did everything. I don't have a team behind me really. I'm starting to get, like, I had a couple people at one point, and then when we were doing a lot of bigger clients and stuff, but now it's just me. I'll hire help here and there when I need to get a bunch of jarring done real quick or something.
Right.
But ultimately, it's mostly just me doing it, packaging the Instagram, the fucking, like I said, the janitor. That's all of us. I don't have a team behind me doing all that stuff most of the time. My wife might help me sticker here and there. She helps me in the grow, plucking and transplanting, stuff like that. That's about it. She just started buying seeds, so we started growing some of her seeds now.
Nice.
But yeah, she's a huge smoker also, like I said. So
shout out the badass wives, you know what I mean? Like the ones that come through and get their hands dirty too and love to partake. Okay, so I kind of remember my other thing you brought up. We talked about commercial consulting and all that, and just training people and keeping the money in the state. And that's what triggered the thought and the realization in my brain that all but one of the facilities I consulted for that were commercial facilities here in the state of Michigan had processors that they brought in from out of state.
Almost all of them.
So then they brought in someone from in the state to train them. It's like, what is happening here? That it's someone convinced them because they were in the industry for longer that
Yeah,
they knew
so
better,
like they've
you
got.
know?
I've seen Nick T come out here quite a few times, which we talked quite a bit. Rosin Ryan's out here right now. I think again he's out here quite often lately. And it's like
I was
all right,
out there
cool.
last
No,
year.
that-
I was
these
out
guys
there
are way
last
bigger than
year.
I am for sure.
I did a facility out there last year. Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say you were just out here. Yeah,
A lot of
I remember that because we chatted. Always too far away from everything.
I know, dude. I'm
two
always
hours too away from everybody, and I'm sure Superior could even say worse.
Everybody
Yeah,
goes to
we're
Denver,
way
and I'm
up
like
here.
4 hours away from everybody there. 5 hours, damn near. So
Oh yeah, you're way up in the mountains when you said told me where you were.
yeah, a little bit. We could talk
That's
more
where
about
I'd
that.
be if I lived in Colorado. I came close to moving out there a couple times.
It's fun. Come on, 4-wheeling.
Snowboarding is my big thing.
Oh, you got plenty of that out here too.
It sounds like there's two options to live in this country, Colorado or Michigan, if you like both the seasons, you know? Well, cheers, guys. It's been a fantastic talk, Smokey. We
Very
really
much.
appreciate you joining us tonight.
It was a pleasure.
Kind of bummed we're
Thank
not
you
going to
for-
be able to connect at Hash Bash next week, but definitely if you guys are around, come swing by the booth. Make sure you do it Friday or early Saturday because it won't last long, but I appreciate the support. You guys got any shout outs or anything to plug before we take off?
Smokey, take it. Where can we
Shout
find
out
you?
to my buddy JMP Glass Art, for
I noticed. I've been
making
seeing it sitting there.
awesome rigs, and now I've got him into growing and making some phenomenal hash with his growing product. So he's actually found the Tropic Driver. He just hunted lemon cheese and a couple other new strains we have coming and stuff. So, and then, like I said, we just popped a bunch of new phenos from our own mixes. So we're excited to have a bunch of new stuff coming here shortly. They're actually going into flower right now, like day 2 right now.
Oh yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, these are some males behind me. That's why they're in here.
That explains it.
Gotta have the boys
Segregated.
Are huge.
Gotta have the boys around.
So again, thank you very much. It was a pleasure, you guys having me, and that I appreciate it. And it's always fun shooting the shit with other people about hash.
Hell yeah.
Cheers,
Absolutely,
man.
dude. Thank you very
Take
much
care,
for being
everyone.
on, and have a good night.
Cheers.